We've used our soil probe and we've taken a bunch of samples throughout the yard. We've scraped away the organic matter before we did that, so it's not all polluted with organic matter. It's still got organic matter. And now we're ready to show you the next step. We put the soil in paper bags. We let it dry for a bit, and then I spread it out here to let it dry even further. And now what we're doing is, you can use a spoon for this, you can use whatever you need. We're just crushing this down. If we find that we have chunks in it, now's the time to get them out, although we're going to sieve it too. So there's a little pebble and we're going to pull that out because it's going to stop everything from grinding down. The reason you want to take the pebbles out is because they're going to sink first and they're going to throw off your perception of how much sand there is. It's the same reason we want to use a flat bottom jar if we can find one, because that's going to change the measurements. And we're going to pick out the organic matter as well. It's not the end of the world if it ends up in there, but it's going to maybe have soil stuck to it and throw things off a little bit. We don't have to do all of this. I sort of mixed it up when I put it on the cookie tray, so I have a representation of all the different bits of the yard. Okay, so now we want to sieve this first. The first few that I did, the results were thrown off because I didn't sieve it ahead of time. So it looked like I have way more sand than I did. So now we're going to take that. We're just going to shuffle this off to the side. One moment. And now we got something to work with over here. And then we're just going to do this for a little while. Now I got it good and dry so that it would sieve well. And this is going to just make sure that all the big bits and most of the organic bits come out of here. But we want enough to actually show us a decent measurement. The larger the measurements are, within reason, the more accurate our results are going to be. If you're guessing if it's 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters, that's going to be trouble. Let's take a moment and transit this into our little jar. We probably need about double that, maybe even triple. And the last bit of soil brings us up there. Don't worry about getting it level or anything. You don't have to compact it, nothing weird. And then we're going to fill this up with water. We want to leave a little room in the surface for air so that it makes it shaking easier. And then we put our lid on it, and already you can see how much organic matter I missed because it's floating to the surface. That's okay, doesn't matter. Put this on nice and tight, otherwise disaster. And then you have to start all over again. And then we're going to shake like mad. And then as soon as we're done shaking, keep the top on. As soon as we're done shaking, we're going to put this down and do nothing. Right away, we're going to leave this alone and never move it again for like 5 days. And then we'll do our measurements and figure out what we got. So we've finished our sifting and screening and we've added water to it and we've shaken it and we've let it sit for a while. And we actually put a big sign on it that said, do not shake. Because it takes a few days to settle out. And sure as heck, someone's going to walk along and go, what's this? And you got to start all over again. So the sand is going to settle out first. It's the heaviest. It's the biggest particles. It settles out almost immediately. And then you're going to have the silt settle out. And then it may take days depending on the type of soil, but the water will be milky and that's all the clay particles and they're going to settle out too. So we've done that. I'm not going to shake this. So this is our jar, good old Bon Maman Gem. This is actually a very suitable jar because it's got straight sides and it's got a flat bottom. So if you used a mason jar, that's got a curved bottom and often a little bump on the inside, and that throws off your proportions because it's all about proportions. So I've actually put marks on here to show us where it is, because sometimes honestly it's really tough to see, and it might be a bit of a judgment call. Is that the sand? Where does the sand end and the silt begin? So we have a bunch of measurements. We measured from the bottom is the sand, and we had about 14 millimeters of sand and 19 millimeters of silt, and then 24 millimeters of clay. Now, we get into the stuff that I hate the most. Math. So we add all that up and we got 57 millimeters total. And now we added it all up, and now we're going to say, what's 14, our sand, divided by 57, our total? And that tells us that there's 25%, remarkably round number, but it's true, 25% sand, 19 millimeters of silt, this guy over here, divided by 57, our total. We've got 33% worth of silt, and then took a few days, the clay settled out. We've got 24 millimeters divided by 57, the total is 42%. It's really important that those all add up to 100%, so check that. If it doesn't add up to 100%, you've done something wrong, okay? Now, we're gonna use the soil texture triangle. I don't know what madman invented this, but it's pretty cool. Now, this is the bit that no one ever really explains properly. The way that we measure this is very distinctive, very specific. So there's 3 axes on the soil texture triangle. We've got clay, silt, and sand. Now, the clay measures across and to the right. So we have 42% clay. So we just follow that down, and roughly it's here. And then our silt is down and to the left, and we have 33% silt, so roughly here. And then sand, I have a horrible feeling I've screwed this up, measures up and to the right. We'll see, actually. You know, if you get it wrong, you're going to know almost immediately. And we have 25% sand. Oh, no, we did it right. Look at that. Haha. We know we did it right. And this is probably important because they pretty much crossed right here. So this soil sample is right between clay loam and clay. And clay loam is better than clay, so I'm going to say it's clay loam. Okay, not very scientific there, but it works. Okay, so the clay measures across and to the right, the silt measures down and to the left, and the sand measures up and to the left.